Hello everybody, welcome to our next workshop. For these workshops we're going to be working on Wonderful Waterworld series. So it's all mermaids and water creatures, and there's going to be drawing, colouring and shading, and there's also going to be showing you how to do different mixed media things using some stencils and stamps and things if that's what you want to do. It's up to you to use this series as you like. If you prefer to just do the colouring and shading, then there are PDFs that you can just colour and shade. If you want to do the drawing, then there's also PDFs for you to draw around, and also me showing you how to draw them, and you can draw alongside me. And then if you want to do the mixed media and backgrounds and things, I'm going to show you how I go about doing them. Now, the pictures that I have here as examples are some of my earlier work, and this is on an A3, so we're not going to be working at that size because it's quite a big project when it's A3, so I thought A4 would be better. And so we're going to work at drawing a mermaid that is lying on her tummy, so I'm going to show you how I draw that. We're going to work at doing different mermaid tails, and we're going to also have a mermaid which is like Faith, which went towards my last stamp collection. She's going to be sitting down, so we can have her where she's sitting down and she's got her tail coming up over some waves. So there was that one, and then there's also this one that I did where it's the same as Faith, but she was just a little bit different, and instead of holding a dolphin she was holding a little baby. So this here is all glossy accents and pencils, so I'm going to show you how to do that, and using some stencils to get some of your circles. We're also going to work at doing seahorses and bubbles, dolphins and jellyfish. We're also going to be working at doing a whale and a little seal. So this here is the piece. I haven't finished it yet, so I've got to do the background and it needs a lot more layers, but this is the piece we're going to work towards doing over this series. And then once you've done this, you can then go off and do all the other bits, or create your own work from what you've discovered or what you've learned. There's PDFs available for you all free to print off, so we've got a few, and I'm hoping you can see in the light because it's in the pale ink. There's also a black ink one if you prefer to work with that, but we're going to have a mermaid that's going to be full length coming down an A4 page, and then we've got one where it's going to have her face at the side of the page like this girl. I don't think you can see it in this light. It's just an outline of her face, so then you can do whatever hair you like. I'm going to show you how to do the body and the tail. And then there's also another PDF with her face at the opposite side, which will be for us to draw this type of body here, lying on her tummy. So it's coming down, lying down. And so from doing that, we'll be able to get our girl in 3 different positions. We'll be able to practice doing her tails, and then we'll do some tails that have just drawing, with just colouring. Then we're going to have tails that's got stamps and stencils in it, and then we'll have tails that have either glossy accents or nouveau drops or something like that. I'm sure you'll have something in your crafty stash, or glitter pens or something. We'll do that. So there's also another PDF, and again in black. So here, this one's in black, and one in the pale ink. And the idea of this is, if it's in the black, if you want the black, then I would suggest just going around the outlines. So practice your drawing without drawing. So initially going around the outside. So if you have your pale outline and your pencil, just following those lines, just to get yourself into the way of actually moving a pencil around a page and practicing. You can also use these just to colour in and shade as a practice sheet. Now we've got like a jellyfish head. I'll show you on the black one because it's it's brighter. We're going to practice doing lots of different types of tentacles, and we can use our pencils or glitter pens and different things to do those to make them pretty. I've also got here, this is just your mermaid's arm. So if I bring this one in, it's literally just this sort of area here. And the idea is I want you to practice drawing your little creatures that she's going to hold. Or you could even start off just drawing a heart and putting it in there. It's just to let you have an idea of what it's like to draw something within an area and have her that she's cuddling something, whether it's a shell or a heart or a seal or the dolphin. So we'll be practicing that and colouring and shading as well. So hopefully by doing all these little sea creatures, you'll feel inspired either to create your own. I might even bring in a sea turtle as well at some point. Be inspired to either create your own sea animals, or just practice putting them into your own artwork. So I'm hoping that this is something that you're going to enjoy, and it's going to run over a few, I don't know how many classes it's going to be, but I'm just going to work my way through trying to show you as much as I can through a series, and I'll try to be uploading them weekly instead of monthly, so we've got quite a few bits to get on with. So we'll get started, shall we? Right, so to start off, I think what we'll do is the whale, and then we'll work our way through all the different little sea creatures, and we'll work our way towards doing our mermaid tails and things. So today, for this workshop, we're going to do the whale, and the pencils I'm using are Faber Castel Polychromos, but I do also have one Prismacolor and one Card & Dash. And it really doesn't matter what pencils you're using and what colours you're using, it's just about having a selection. I've just got, I don't have this one in the Faber Castel, so it's just an ochre. And this one here is like a peachy colour, and it's really similar to the beige red, but it's just a little bit paler, and so it's quite nice when you have just different tones, because you can just get more depth, more value, and it doesn't really matter if you're if you just decide that you want to use your coral instead, or your medium flesh, or your cinnamon even, but I just wanted to use the peachy colour one. But the other colours that I'm using, I've taken just a selection of greeny bluey tones, and also a little bit of a purpley one there. Again, they don't matter if you just want to get a selection of colours that you want to decide on what colour you want your whale to be. He doesn't have to be blues and pinks like what I've got. Just find a selection of tones and colours that are similar, but maybe just have one that contrasts a little bit. So like I've got a little bit of pink in there. There's also a little bit of yellow. But the ones that I do have, I've got are light cobalt turquoise and the hello turquoise. I've got cobalt green and the hello blue reddish and the Prussian blue and the phthalo blue. Whoops. And I've also brought in a little bit of, it's a kind of purpley tone, but it's called Delft blue, and an indigo, dark indigo. So the dark indigo is good because it's close to a black, which I've also got, but I've used it on the shadows underneath, which is quite nice, and it's also nice to have that as your darkest sort of blue going around the outside. So we've got that, and then I'm going to, for underneath, I've got little bits of pink, so I'm just going to use pink on this one, even though there's yellow on that one. And I've got salmon, middle purple pink, and pink madder lake. And so apart from that, all I've got is my rubber, my eraser. So I've got a technical one and a normal one. The technical one I use for if you find that the pencil starts to burnish before you want it to. It's just nice that you can go in with a swift if I just show, I don't have anything there that I can show you on, but as we go through, if it starts to build up, I'll just show you how with your technical pencil, not a technical pencil, with your electric eraser, how you can get rid of that. And this one's just for when we've got the HB pencil out and just making mistakes and just deciding to rub away. And I'm using a technical pencil, I'm using Pentel, and it's 0.5mm. And it's just because that's the only one I have at the minute, because my really thin one has run out of lead and I need to get another one. So, but just a normal HB pencil is fine. And it's about not putting pressure on or anything like that, and just having a play. And I mean, we don't need to have a tail like that, have a swippier tail, or it's just about just relaxing and enjoying, spending a bit of time with pencils. So I'm using, as well, for when you're printing off with your PDFs, the best paper that I've found is having a 250 GSM and extra smooth, so that anything, my printer's not great, so anything thicker than 250 GSM doesn't seem to work for me, but it depends on what kind of printer you've got. But at the minute, this is just A4 extra smooth white card, and so you can have a little think about what you want to do, whether you just want to draw whales or if you want to create an actual piece of artwork just with a whale. So in that case, you would just decide on whether you want to, if it was a centerpiece whale, I would have an A4 sheet, up and down portrait, and just find your central point where you want to draw and use that central area just to, as a guide where you want your artwork to go. I mean, you can always cut your artwork down as well once it's finished if you are not happy with it being an A4 and you've made your whale quite small. Make it just a little piece of artwork. But it might be that you just want to practice. So I'm going to have mine A4 portrait, and I'm going to start, like I always start, with an eye. Now, you can use a button if you want to, or, you know, on this occasion, I'm going to just do a little oval, and I've brought it that the eye is going to be perhaps about just under half, so not halfway up, so maybe about a quarter of the way up, although my measurements are not good, so don't go by my quarters. So I'm just going to draw a little oval for an eye. So, like so, and then, now if you're not happy with what you've done, just rub it out and do another one. And then inside that little oval, I'm going to do the eye. So there's the iris. And then in the centre of that, I'm just going to do like a C shape, just like that, and that is going to be the eye eventually. Now I'm just going to do that just to straighten mine up a little bit, and then rub that little line away. So have a play in getting the shape of eye that you want, and don't be scared to bring out your rubbers, because I am always rubbing out. I don't just sit down and draw it. And then from there, I'm gonna just draw a little line underneath his eye, like so. So it's a mirror image of under his eye, and it could even be higher up than that if you want. And then just a little bit that curls around, and then curls around again. So it's a bit like that. And then this bit here is going to come and make the bottom. Just leave it at that for now. And this bit here is going to start to create the top of his head. So I just do it like a little swip around from there. And then I want to keep it that it's quite thin. The area here is quite thin, and then it's going to come up maybe around about there, and then arch over his head a little bit. So at this point, if you're not happy, just rub it out and start again. Or stick with it and see what occurs, and you might have I realise at the end that, oh, I actually prefer it like that. I prefer it because I've now created my own style of whale. And then we're going to start, I want it to be that his back is a little bit straight but then starting to curl. So at this point you can decide on whether you want him to have a really, really long back or if you want it to be quite short. Just go with the flow. If you want it to be the full length of the A4, you might want it to be that his back comes here but you're going to give him a really big tail. Right, I'm going to start bringing in a little bit of the bottom now. So this here starts to come down, and then you want it to be quite fat, at its fattest sort of point there, before it starts to come around to be the same sort of shape as the rest of his body. So I would kind of work between doing the outside line and the inside line and just rubbing out accordingly. So I'm going to come back to this inside line and perhaps come maybe to about here where I want his fin to go. So I'm going to now put a little line there and create a fin. So it's coming down and around. And you can make it squiggly, it doesn't need to be straight, and then bringing it to a peak, maybe there, and then coming in and swooping around a little bit. And if you're happy with that, stick with it, and if not, rub it out. And you might find now that you need to change this area because you want this to come along. So I'm thinking that my little bit here is a bit fat, so I'm just going to rub that little bit out and just make it a little less big. And then bring that around so that it joins to his fin but not go through the fin. Just rub that a little bit away. You know, just every now and again I think, oh, I want that to be a bit bigger, so just go back in with another line. The first lines you make are not the last lines that you have to make, so just see it as a freedom that you can just play around with your pencil. So just imagine an imaginary line going through there. I might make his fin a bit bigger, and then kick it off about there maybe. Right, and now I want to concentrate on doing the rest of his body. So I'm going to have this coming around, maybe to about there, and then have it curling around. Now the tail that I did was a bit of a, so you come round and then you have this sort of like fan sort of shape, like so, and then come back in, and then you're going to now mirror that line that you've already done and bring it around. And then you want this area now to meet up with the area that you've created down here, so it's just a case of just trying to get it to match up. And then whatever lines you don't need, just rub away. So that's like a basic outline for a whale, and you can, once you've got that sort of shape, you can have a look at it and think, right, well, I would think I want his eye to be smaller, so just rub out his eye, do it again. You want his fin to be smaller or bigger, rub it out, do it again. If you want his body to be a bit rounder, then just keep continuing with different lines. So just use the first line you've got because you've got a base sort of shape that you want, but maybe you want it a bit fatter, so just put in extra lines. And then also you need to get this little bit to then come up and then just let it get thinner and thinner and thinner till you eventually can't see his tummy anymore. And it might be that you want him to have a fatter tummy once you've done that. But just wherever his line ends there, just make sure that can end here as well. And then when you find the shape that you're happy with, just rub out all the extra lines that you created that you don't need. And then when you've got that, then you can colour it. Or you can now do another one and just perhaps try to do it a little bit different. Just see how you can get various different ideas. So I'm now going to rub away his tail and try and get a different type of tail. So if we rub that away, and maybe a little bit of this bit, then we can maybe give him a really big tail. So coming round like so, and then perhaps do it like that, bring it in, and then do the same at the other side. So he's got a really big tail. So it's quite nice to find elements within your sea creatures that you would like to emphasise. So it could be the tail, it could be the fin, it could be the really big eye. I'm hoping that you can see all of that okay. And so maybe get rid of that big tail. And do a smaller one, so just playing. So maybe you want to have his tail maybe going really small and have it like an M sort of shape. So just have a play around there. And then if you're happy, I'm just going to make his body a little bit fatter, I think. Once you're happy, we can then start to colour. So I'll just rub away that other line so I can make his body a bit fatter. And then I'm going to go back to having a different tail. I'm going to bring it that it swoops around. And then just a little bit of a fawn. And then making it quite thin and meeting up with that. That's the kind of tail I fancy having, but you have the one that you want to have. Right, now for the colouring. Okay. So I'm going to start like what we always do with our lightest colour first. So I've got my cobalt turquoise. And what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to just change his eye a little bit. I'm going to give him an eyelid. So instead of having his eye like this, I'm going to put a line all the way through there. And then I'll use my technical one, just slightly rub away those little circles, the rest of that circle. So by giving him an eyelid, you've kind of changed his personality a little bit. He looks a little bit sleepy, I would say. Just going to emphasise that outside line a little bit. So, you know, every time you make a change, have a look and see how you've changed their personality, and that'll help you to, if you're doing art through expression, then you can start to see how that can come across. So just going around the outside of these lines that we've drawn, just taking this light blue, this light cobalt blue around the outside. And then this acts as like where you can kind of see where you want your shadows to go, and where how you can see how you can change the shape of your creature just by bringing in your pencils. You start to see how you can create the value, and you can see where his body would be darker and where it would be lighter. So I always keep it lighter in the centre and just build up the colours around the outside. So just going along that outside line, but just dragging a little bit of the colour in towards his body. And the same going around the outside of his fin. And then there's an area on his fin that'll be a little bit darker just down here, so just adding a little bit more colour in there so that I've got this white area that's starting to shine here. And then the same along this part of his body. So if you keep your pencils nice and light strokes, you'll be able to get lots of different layers on there. And then the same, just going right out around his fin as well. Now, you don't need to bring any pinks and things in, you can just have it all blue if you like, or you can have like a rainbow, or it doesn't have to be blue. Right, so we've got the outside done with the first pale shade of blue, and then it's just a case of working up your pencils or just deciding which colours you want in there. So I'm now going to use my Phthalo blue and do the same again, just being on that, emphasising that pencil line, but just dragging a little bit of colour up into where you've already been. Now, depending on what kind of strokes you do, you'll get different effects. So I usually do the circular motion because you get more coverage. But I also like the little swirl. If you don't keep your circular motions close together, I like the little effects that you start to get, the little swirly bits. But if you prefer to do dots, or if you prefer to do the cross hatching, do that. Find what feels most comfortable to you and just stick with it, because it's a part of who you are, it's part of your style, it's part of what will make you look different to other people's work. Just building this up, and then every now and again I just make it a little bit, it's not all just coming out at the same distance, so some bits come in further, some bits go out further. Can you see that? And then just find areas where I think it's going to be darker, so I think it's going to be darker here, so I just emphasise that a little bit and just put an extra few layers on there to make that a little bit darker. And then with his tail, if you do little swoops that go in, so you find your outside line that you did with your pencil, and then just put little single lines in, And if you have them all sort of aiming towards the centre, then it becomes more like a little fan. And then you can emphasise that by just doing smaller ones from there and all the way along that line. And then if you just every now and again, like when we do hair, just bring in another colour and just add into those little swoops. So it starts to look quite fawn-like, doesn't it? And then just have some that are a bit longer than others, but coming in to create this illusion of it all coming in towards the tail. So that's what's got a little bit of blue there, and then start to create an area around his mouth as well, because it's a little bit darker there, and it's always a bit darker right here on this corner. Right, we have a lot more layers to do there. I just want to put a few lines in on his tummy. So I'm going back to my normal pencil. And then finding a point just under his mouth and have these lines. They're going to mirror this line here. It's going to be the same, but coming down from his mouth. And then swoop them along, trying to keep them sort of similar to the shape of his body. And then imaginary line going through his fin, and then the next one coming here. And then just getting a bit thinner as it gets close to the end. And then we're going to do another one, maybe about here, and using this one now as the mirror. And then imaginary line through his fin and picking it back up here, using this line now as the mirror, and it fading off. And if you wanted to do another one, you can. Maybe I'm going to maybe just put, no, I'm going to just keep it like that. But you can put in another line if you want. Maybe have another one here. And going through, maybe I will. I think I'll put one here as well. And then it's going to come down and almost fade off into this line here, so you don't really see it at the other side. I'm just going to rub away some of this pencil line there. Right, I'm going to do a little bit in his eye. So if you want his eye to be the same colour as him in the blues, then stick with these colours. If you want to give him a purple eye or anything, just go ahead and do what you feel. I'm going to use a cobalt green and just colour all of the iris. Now you can do his eyes the way that we do the Heartfelt Girls as well, or the other animals, or you can just colour it. It's up to you. Just colour in all that area. And then I'm going to bring in some blue and then just highlight around the outside a little bit and along the bottom. Just emphasising along that line, and then creating it that it's a little bit darker up where his eyelid is coming down. And then with my black, that little C that we made, just going to emphasise it Now you can make his pupil from that little C. You can start to give him a bigger pupil if you want, which I will on this occasion. I didn't on the original, but just to show how you can change how they look just by little differences. Bigger pupil, smaller eye, bigger eyelid. And I'm just going to emphasize under his eyelid, go for that with the black, and then just on the corners just do a little bit of the black as well, just to get the shape of his eye. And if you want to like add a bit more detail in his eyes, you can. I'm bringing in a purple now, and I'm just going to keep emphasizing that outside line, keep darkening up that area underneath his eye, and I'm going to bring that purple over into the white of his eye to create the shadow. And if I keep it really close to that black line with no white in between, then that starts to give you the bit of depth. And then I'm just darkening up in different areas around his eye, maybe put a few swirls in. Right, now I'm just going to use a Helioish turquoise colour and just continue doing what we've already done. And this is basically it, just sitting with your pencils and going around, adding extra layers, keeping it darker on the outside line and working it in till it gets lighter in the centre. And then just deciding which colours you want to use. Now I've got some stamps as well. It's nice to, if you do have some little miniature stamps, I'm using some of the ones that are in my old stamp collection, but I'm sure that you'll have some in your crafty stash. If not, you don't need to use stamps. You can draw or write different things inside your whale if you want to, or you can add your embellishments or designer papers or anything. You can make collages or things. Once you've got your actual shape of how you want your whale or anything that you draw, you can fill that space however you like, and it's nice just to have a play and not put expectations or pressure on yourself, just seeing what occurs when you put different things in there. So I'm keeping it kind of darker up around the fin, and again I'll keep going in and emphasising these little lines that we've done and keeping the outside edge a little bit darker. And of course this is just the way that I colour and shade. I'm sure that when you start getting your pencils out and you're doing lots of colouring and drawing, you'll find your own techniques and ways that work for you, and each time you use your pencils you'll discover what they can do, and you'll get more and more confident with using them. So the main thing that I don't want is a block colour. I don't want to just get my pencil and start colouring all of it blue. I just like to have different shades in there. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of pink as well now. Well, you don't usually get pink on whales, but when they're whimsical you can do whatever you like. So just lightly finding little areas where I would like a little bit of pink. So I don't have any major plan, I'm not doing it for any reason, I'm just finding little areas but dotting it around so that it's not all in the one area. So I'll maybe do a little bit here on the back as well. And going over the top of the blue, because then that gives you different shades of the pink. It just makes it, just adds more interest. And it lets you see how you can layer up your pencils as well, and how you can get different colours and shades by doing that. I'm going to add pink in underneath here as well now, and just build up in this area. So basically just going around the outside, so wherever your pencil line is, just keeping it at its darkest at that area, and then again underneath. Now you can use your pink here to create your shadows, or you can bring in your purples or your blues, indigo blue, or your browns. Just see, you kind of, it's quite nice to try and get a little bit of a shadow going on under here, but again, when it's whimsical, you don't have to. So I'm just making most of this area pink, and again leaving a white area like what you're used to me doing now. You all know me better than me now. Now there's still a little bit of pencil line in here that got left, so I'm going to just make that more of a shadow. I'll just keep building on that and make it darker and darker. So just going all the way around the outsides. Right, what else we're going to do? So I just want to darken up around his eyelid as well. So I'm going to just find a darker bluey, so I've got this yellowish, bluish, reddish, and I'm just going to emphasise that line that we've made into his eyelid. Just darken that up a little bit. And then also just darken the corners, and if you start at the corner and just swoop in a little bit with some lines, then you can start to get just it creates a graduation of the blue, so it's really dark in here at the corner, and then it gets a bit light, and then the same at the other side. Now you might want to turn your page around and have it facing another way for you to get that swoop, which I would have normally done, but because I've got it on the camera, I'll just leave it where it is. It's a bit harder to get that motion from that angle, but I've managed to do it. And then with this same colour now starting to come back out and around. And then if you just go around that line with your blue, eventually that'll be black. Is he starting to build up? I think he is. Now if you wanted to draw little bubbles and things on him, you can do that. I was going to get my stamp, but I'll get it in a minute. Actually I think I've put it upstairs, I have to go and get it, but just continue doing a little bit more of the colouring and shading before we start adding some of the stamps. So on the next workshop that we do in this Water Wonderland series, I'm going to do the little seal. I'm going to do the seal, and we're going to practice with her arm and putting the seal in there. In fact, what we'll do is we'll do a practice of the seal and the dolphin, because her arm is able to hold either the seal or the dolphin. You could even, if you wanted to, have the whale come in and use that as a cradle for his face, and then have his tail going up. You might enjoy just having a little go at just seeing what different things you can have her holding, or seeing how you can take all the different elements that we're learning how to draw and how to put them into a finished piece of artwork. So like with this whale, you could have just lots of splashes or lots of bubbles coming off around him. Or you can just have him as this, without any background. Just darkening up around this a little bit. And then of course we need to darken up his fin as well. And what you could do is draw another little baby dolphin coming this way, so you have him facing the other way and he's just a bit smaller. Possibilities are endless once you start thinking. And if you just let your imagination go, don't put pressure on yourself, just do what you feel like doing, and then just keep it all in a little journal or a little folder. I keep all my artwork in a little folder, little plastic sleeve one, and then it's really nice to go in and have a look every now and again and see what your drawings used to look like, and then see what they look like now, and see if you look a bit more polished. I'm just going to bring in I just need to start sharpening them now. They're starting to get a bit bland. I'm going to bring in more of a greeny sort of tone. I'm going to bring in this one, this cobalt green, and start putting it over the top of the blue in some areas, and have it just on its own as well, so that you see the more shades and tones. Which is it's just quite nice to have lots of different shades in there and not have it all just a block colour. Help build up your value and just add a little bit more interest to your drawing. You see how bringing that green in on top of the blue just sort of changes it a little bit. So you can change the pressure as well. Once you've had a few layers on there, and if you feel like you're happy with where that's at and you want to press down and burnish it, then you can do that. And then that just smooths it all out, blends it together, all those colours together, and just makes it look a little bit more finished. But then in other areas, if you just still keep it light, I'm just going to bring a little bit of the green coming up around his eyelid. And just a little bit maybe in here. I'm just going to bring in a purpley tone and just maybe build up a little bit around his eye. Just put in a little bit more. So you can create little lines in underneath there if you want. Keep building up on his eyelid. Just keep darkening that up, and then you see the depth start to coming in again. Every time you do something on the eye, just try and darken up that outside line on the iris, because that brightens that up. And if you've got purples and things in his eye, you might want to bring a little bit of purple in and use that as your shadows. So I'm going to just darken this line up here and use a little bit of the purple to come in onto that pink to create my shadow there, and then I'll it'll highlight more once we bring in the black. So if you just highlight that line now with your black, then you start to see more of that purple being like a shadow instead of just being part of the rest of the body. I'm going to do the same around his mouth. And also bring some of that purple up into the blue at the top of his mouth as well. And use your black just to emphasize this line. Now you can take that black all the way along if you prefer, or you can just do it where you highlight in certain areas. So I'm just going to highlight that main bit of his mouth, and if you keep going over it and over it, you'll just burnish it and make it even darker. Once you've found that line and you're happy with it, just press in hard and then it just gets darker. And then I'm going to do the same over here just under the fin, and then I'm going to let the rest of it just be a little bit lighter. And then just as long as there's no white between that black line, then you'll start to get that illusion of it being a shadow. And if you have it at its darkest, just directly coming off the black line, and then just get your pencil softer and softer coming down, then the shadow gets lighter. So we want to do the same over at this area as well. So I'm just going to use the purple to highlight that line, and then create that shadow, keeping it really dark at the line and then fading out. And then bringing your black in just to get that solid line to help. I'm going to let that black go up just a little bit up around the back there as well of his tail. And then I want to create some shadows going on underneath his fin. So I'm just going to get my black and then highlight just under here, and then do the same again using the purple. But you play around with the colour. You might not want to use purple, but you can use your browns or your ochres or your blacks and greys. It's just to show how you can use different colours for the same sort of. So because his fin comes out a little bit, you kind of want your shadow to look like it's the same sort of shape, so it's coming out and around. So I'm just going to drag a little bit more of the shadow out to mirror the sort of shape of his fin. And if you want to bring that shadow all the way out from his body and into the sea where he is, or he might not be if he's in a whimsical world. So just darken it up right here at the end. And just having this shadow. I'm then just going to bring in some more of the pink. Now if you want to have it that it's darker pink and then lighter pink, you can use your skin tones and your, like this what do you call it, beige red. You can have it inside and have it a little bit lighter and just still find an area that's going to have a white sort of shine, and then that stops it from just looking like you've forgotten to colour that area. You can also use your ivory if you prefer, or your white pencil. It's better to have something there than nothing there, and it helps to blend it all together and look a little bit more like it's all meant to be together. If I can just find my ivory. Bring my ivory into the centre. I'm also going to use the ivory here in this little area that I've left white on his fin, and same in this central point. So if you want to mark out where you want it to stay light, just by putting in your white or your cream, and then at the very end, once you've got all your colours on there, you can go over all of it and burnish it with your cream or your white. So I'm using back to the cobalt green and bringing in a little bit more of the greeny tones into his body. And then where his tail starts to curl, I'm just going to do this little motion, just bringing in a little bit of colour that's just coming around this corner, and then just making it a little bit darker in here. And just keep building it up until eventually you have a nice fully coloured whale. I'm going to put a little bit of pink in here as well on his tail, I think. I'll bring some pink into his, so just little swoops every now and again in there, and then maybe a little bit just in this area where there's still a little bit of white. And I'm going over the purple with the pink now, and still dragging some more of that pink into his lower body, just to build that up a little bit. I'm going to use a middle purple pink again, just to start darkening up around his mouth and just to bring in another tone. And maybe just use it again in different areas. So just in here under his fin, a little bit in that shadow as well, just to add a little bit more, and then underneath. And then maybe bring some of this in to darken up some of that pink that you've already got in there. Just in little areas, not all of the pink, just finding little bits that you want to just highlight and make a little bit darker. bit here at the bottom here. It's thin just over the blue. So I'm going to go back to my lightest colour, the light cobalt blue, and I'm going to just try and add a little bit more of that paler blue coming in towards this shiny bit. And then that'll help to emphasise it a little bit. And I'm going in over where we've already been on top of the other blues, just to keep it all together. And then there's some areas where I'm happy with where it's at, and I'm just going to burnish it by just pressing down harder with this blue, pushing all those colours together. And then getting lighter again, so not keeping it dark and pressed down all the time, but just finding little areas that you can do that for now. And so you can still add colour over the top of that, but it just it's better if you have lots of colours under there first off to get that nice vibrant feel, and then you can still put little things, little bits of colour on top. So I'm going to do the same down here. I'm going to press hard and burnish this little bit, have it a paler sort of blue to the rest, and then it's darker in there with the purple. So I'll go in and get my purple again and just darken that up again, going over the top of it. And at this point I'm pressing down hard on top of what I've already burnished, trying to push all those colours together. And then go back again with this light blue and just try to do the same up near the top, and just find different areas where you want to have this blue just on its own, and then burnishing it, and then having other areas where it's going to be a different shade or a darker blue or green or whatever you've decided on. Going to go back in again with more pink and just maybe have a little sweep of pink go through that central point, just keeping that really light. And then darken up different bits. I'm going to use my blue as well, or a greeny blue, just to do these lines underneath. You can do whatever colour you like. You can do it black as well if you prefer, and sometimes it's quite nice to have a little black as well next to it. Now you can fill the line in completely, or you can just have it that it fades out. Have a play to see which you prefer. And I'm just going to highlight this outside line and make it greeny as well, because these are all green, I think it looks. A little bit better. Right, so something else that I like to use in my artwork is Distress Oxide and stamps. You don't have to do that again. If you just want to draw little images into your whale, or you can do that, or you can leave it as is, or you can get some stencils and use those instead. But I like to use I usually sometimes draw little hashtags and swirls and things, and so I did have some of them made into little stamps when I did my other stamp collection. So I'm just going to use a little swirl, and I can't remember which one it's from. I've got a feeling it's from Brave. But again, it doesn't matter. If you want to just draw little swirls, then I would just get a different coloured pencil and just draw them on. So if I just decide to do a little swirl like so, and then if you want to thicken it up, you can, and if you want to just leave it thin and fade, then that's fine. If not, if you want to use your Distressed Oxides, you can use whatever colours you like. This one I'm using is the Tumbled Glass, and my little swirl. And I just try and turn it around to have it in different positions each time. So I'm going to put one on thin, and I maybe pressed a little hard on that, but we won't worry. And then I'm going to put one maybe here, and just keep turning it around so that it's not facing the same direction each time. Just try and have it a little bit different each time. Put one there, and I think that's enough. I'll maybe put one on the fin as well. Just turn it again so that it's a little bit in a different position. Maybe put that there. And you know, sometimes I have these little things going off into the backgrounds as well, so you can do that. And with Distressed Oxides, you can continue to colour over the top of them, so you can keep colouring and then have them fade out and then add more later on. So we've got those, and if you wanted to maybe perhaps give a little few circly air bubbles on the side of his face, that's quite a nice little touch. And again, it's just a case of continuing to darken and build up the colour in there. So I'm just using the Passalo blue to do that, and I'll probably continue to darken this up after the workshop. Hopefully you've got enough there to see that you just keep layering it and layering it up. Now for doing the outside, I tend to create a little line that goes all the way around the artwork, so you just sort of like deciding where the end of the body is, and then dragging a little bit of colour out from that line. Now usually I would start with the lightest colour. I just need to sharpen it. Let me just grab my sharpener. So I'm going to use my light cobalt turquoise, the one that I started with, and just light circular motion, starting right in at the line where your whale is, and then just start to drag some of that pale turquoise blue out from the body. And I like white space in my backgrounds as well, so I do the same on the outside as what I do on the inside. So in the sense that I start on the inside and drag the colour down into a point where it gets lighter, where I've got a little bit of white. Yeah, so I do the same on the outside, starting on that line and dragging some out to a point where I'm going to have it white. And so this is the first sort of layer, and it's quite overwhelming if you've got a whole large sheet of A4 paper and you think I need to colour that in with my pencils. So what I tend to do is I just go around the actual artwork that I've created and just drag some of that colour out so far and then have a white area. Or sometimes it would be a different colour, like a yellow or a pink, but on this occasion I'm just doing it that it's the kind of blues, so it's a bit like the sea. But when it's a fantasy wonder world, you can do whatever colours you like. But if you are somebody who likes using your inks and things, what you can do is you can either get some tracing paper and then trace the outline, and then cut that piece of tracing paper out and use it as a mask to cover your artwork. And then you can use your inks and whatever other things you like using to fill the outside. Or you can create a background and then cut this out and lay that on the top of the background that you've made. If you like mixed media and creating different backgrounds from different products that you've got, then you might want to do that. Or you might just want to leave it as is and just have it as a centerpiece on a white background. There is nothing wrong with that. And then you can not mask it, I forget what you call it, when you just use maybe some black card or some blue card and then just place your card underneath it and then have your little square and have that on top. So for goodness me, I've forgotten what you call it. Masking and layering, isn't it? At the minute I've really got words just falling out of my head. So just having the lightest colour first and just having an area where you've created a layer of colour all the way around your whale. And then once you've done that, then go up your colours again and have it a little bit darker. So because it's quite blue inside the whale, I'm going to use this halo bluish reddish colour and just again go around that line and then start to drag a little bit of this out onto the top of the first layer that you've just done, and then that helps to build up a variation of shades and tones on the outside as well as on the inside. And then I would go back in again with an even darker one and then do the same. So you can start to see that you've still got light blue there, you've got some of this darker blue going around. And the other thing I do is I don't have it all equal, going the same. So some areas I come out a little bit further than others. So in this, look, if I come out a bit further there, so it looks a bit staggered. And then having it really, really dark right in at the line. And then gradually coming out and getting a bit lighter and fading into the colour that you've already put down. So I would do that all the way around. And then I would find one that was even darker, or maybe even a little bit different colour. This here is purple. So this is, well, it's Delft blue it's called, but in my head it's a purple when I put it on the page. So again, highlighting that outside line, and pressing down hard if you want to burnish it. And then again dragging some of this into the blue that you've already done. And just having it that it's fully dark and no white lines between the line that you've drawn and the colour coming out. So if you just do the line and then softly drag it out, then that should help you to achieve that. And then once you've done that all the way around, you can either leave it like that, you can add your little words and things, you could have words coming around the tail or whatever, or you can do what I do quite a lot is actual squiggles that start to come out, and again having them at different lengths so they're not all the same sort of size, and then maybe some just coming around here, and then maybe a big long one there, and again maybe one long there, and maybe one that's a bit fatter so you have a bit more squiggles. And I'm literally just doing a line and then squiggling it, so it's a bit like a doodle really. And I would do that again all the way around, or you can just do it on the top and leave the bottom that it doesn't have that. And so all you have to do now is just continue to layer it up until you get it to a place where it's the way you want it. You may want to just keep it like that, but I think it just needs a little bit more colour still. So I'm going to bring in some more blue here, and then again just doing the same process all the way around. And when you're happy and you have enough colour on there, you can burnish all of it. If you want to keep it at that sort of colour, the colour that you've got, and you want to keep it at that, I would use a white pencil. Find my white pencil, and then just go over it and burnish it. So that means pressing it down hard, not as hard as what I just did. I just broke a lead, but and then that softens it and blends it all together. And if you drag the white over into the centre as well, and then come back in and press hard down onto your blue, then you'll hopefully see how you soften it, and it helps to make it look a bit more vibrant as well, and it makes it look more finished, and when you touch it, it's really, really smooth. And once you've burnished it, you can still go over the top of it and add some more layers, keeping it nice and soft. And if you want to go down harder, you can do that, and you'll see how the colours become more vibrant, especially if you've got lots of different shades. So here I've got a little bit of purple in under there and the different shades of blue, and when I press down hard on top of it, and with the white having been on there as well, it just makes it look more vibrant. And so I'm just going to bring in my lighter colour as well, and just bring it in a little bit more to the centre. And then every now and again I'm just starting to press down hard just to burnish it, but you know, don't do that until you've got lots of layers on there and you're starting to see the shape of the whale take place. And so the different strokes that you do, you'll get different effects. So I'm like going up and down in the shape of the body now, rather than my little circular motions, because I've got enough pencil on there now that I can start to move some of it around and blend it all together. I hope that's coming up okay on the camera. I hope you can see that. And so you can see the difference in that blue when it goes over the pink and starts to make a purple tone. So it's quite nice once you start doing it, just to see what your pencils can do and to see what different kind of effects you can get by doing different pencil strokes. And you know, if you're wondering about the strokes and things, there's a workbook that I've got in the subscription area that you can print off and practice with, to show you how you can get different effects with your pencils. So have a wee look for that if you haven't already seen it. So I'm just going over and darkening up around that outside bit of his eye as well with this blue, because that really brightens up his eye. Got a hair there. And then just darkening up. So as you go along, you'll see where you want it to have more colour or not. And then, you know, if that's your first time doing it, go back again and do them again and see how different you can make them look with a different tail, bigger eye, bigger fin, different swirls, different colours. So it's quite nice. And so hopefully I've given you enough. You can go in with the greens as well, with the purple, and have those kind of squiggles coming off as well, if you like. It doesn't have to just be one colour. So hopefully that's him looking a little bit like him. He still needs more layers as well. I haven't really finished him, but I'm trying to get them both in. Maybe if I move the camera up a little bit, you get to see that he's not exactly the same, and you'll never have them exactly the same when you do them, but he's similar, and you can see how different he looks having a bit of yellow there. I didn't give him yellow on here. Give him the same swirls. His tail's a little bit different, but you know, have a little go, maybe having a great big massive tail. And we will be doing tails, as in the mermaid's tails as well in this series, so you can perhaps take inspiration from what you do in your mermaid's tails to apply them onto your whale's tail. So I'm going to leave that for now. I'm hoping that I've given you enough to make a start and have a go and see how you go on. Remember to print off all of your PDFs and use them as practice sheets, and if you do have a go, and if you would like to share it in the group, because it helps inspire other people who are not quite confident enough yet to pick up the pencils, and they would love to do it. So when they see other people doing it, it can inspire them as well. And if you can also use the hashtag Wonderful Waterworld as well. So I'll just show you, for those who don't know what hashtags are, just if you're sharing it on social media, there's your hashtag, and then Wonderful Waterworld. And then what will happen is everybody who creates artwork under this hashtag on social media, they'll all go into the same sort of place, and so it'd be nice for me to then go in and have a look. So this is more Instagram, by the way. I'll just write Instagram if you're on there, but I'm also using it on Facebook as well. So whenever I put a post that's relating to the Wonderful Waterworld, I'll use that hashtag. And as well, if you can tag me, you don't have to do all this, I don't want you feeling overwhelmed. But there's your @ sign and then a dash of D. And Instagram, I've got an underscore, dash of D. And on Facebook, I'm just a dash of D. I don't have an underscore. So then that means I get notified and I can come in and have a look and see what you've done. And it also lets people know that I was the original artist behind it all. And also, you know, once you've done your tags, just remembered, once you've done your tags with the pale blue, if you're using your Distress Oxide, It's quite nice if you then go in with a darker blue and then emphasize it by putting a line inside there. So it just adds another effect, and it highlights it a little bit more. Just something else for you to consider, or you can do or not do. But the next time we are going to do, the next workshop is going to be doing the arm with the little seal and the dolphin. I don't have my artwork of the dolphin around here at the minute, but I do have the PDF here, which is not on. I've got this PDF that I've been messing around on. There's your little dolphin there. But we'll do him and the seal, and then we'll crack on and do our mermaids. Anyway, everybody, I hope you've had fun. Please share your work in the group, and yeah, just enjoy yourself. Don't put pressure on, and just see what occurs. Bye, everybody. Bye bye.